Another day, another podcast. Hi, my name is Samreen and welcome. I hope all of you are able to cope up with the pandemic pressure that we all have been going through due to quarantine and the news that we read every single day. Like I mentioned in my previous podcast, it has been getting to me, but sitting back and reflecting and realizing the fact that there is a dream that I want to make happen, and there is so much of content that I want to put out to people out there. Kind of makes me want to come in front of the camera and the audio and want to create content. So if you are watching this, thank you so much. And if you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you're old, welcome back and thank you. Today I am going to be talking about something that is very personal to me, but I feel like a lot of people also need to know because of the fact that um, the struggles that we all go through are very similar, although maybe it's not the same, but it's definitely similar, and the way we cope up with it is very different, but again at the same time somewhere or the other it's very similar to one another. So today I'm going to be talking about coping mechanisms. I honestly feel like I am not the right person to take any advice from, especially when it comes to coping mechanisms, because there have been many situations that I haven't coped up with very well, and I have had a lot of hard time trying to make things happen for myself. And then I don't just mean career wise, but even just to wake up every morning and just wake up every morning and get going with anything, even if it's just life and not just work. So, my way of coping up is pretty unhealthy. But the reason why I'm making this podcast is because I want to be able to tell people that if you are also experiencing some sort of an unhealthy coping up mechanism, then you should definitely seek help. Um, there are some things that I can deal with, there are some things that I cannot deal with. And the things that I can deal with is hate. I can deal with any sort of things that do not involve my close family and friends. That means things that concern outside, like anybody from the outside giving me a hard time, anybody from work giving me a hard time. All that is very, very, very normal for me and something that I can deal with. What I can't deal with, or what is something that I'm really weak in dealing at, is heartbreaks, losing people who I consider as family, and also anything that relates to family. However, most of my issues revolve around these areas, and that makes it sometimes really hard for me to cope up with. Now, it's not like I've not lost friends before, it's not like I've not had heartbreaks before, it's not like I've not had any family issues before, but moving forward these things get worse for me every time something new happens, and it kind of gets me to a position where I can't take care of myself at all. And so when I was in my university semester 3, not semester 3, I think semester 2, I had a group of friends. I wasn't very attached to them, but I was pretty attached to them, and some of them are now, and I've actually gotten close to some of them now, and I'm really thankful for them. But in the beginning, we were this entire big group, and eventually, I kind of was not happy being around them because of a lot of reasons, and we had fights, and eventually I had to leave. And that, when that happened, instead of sitting and brooding and grieving over it, how I decided to cope up with it was by taking up a job outside so I didn't have to be in uni. I needed a reason to come out of university, and that really helped. Like, I ended up getting an internship at a very big company, and I ended up, working way more and learning video editing. That was where my video editing journey started. Moving forward to 2019, I had my first heartbreak ever. Now, this was one thing, okay, one moment in my life, or one of the very key moments in my life that I couldn't handle and I couldn't take care. Now, it was not because of the reason that I had a heartbreak. It was because of the fact that I had put my dreams wings on this person. And after a point, I could not see my future without them. So whenever I saw myself going ahead, even career wise, I saw this person with me. And then, my heart got broken into little pieces, which affected me really bad. And I remember I couldn't function anymore. Now, before this, everything that has happened to me, I was able to work hard and use my pain to power. And I was able to come up with better outputs. I was able to move forward with my channel and everything. But this was one stage in my life that I couldn't cope up with. And I stopped working. I could not focus even on the internship that I was doing. I could not even eat well. I could not sleep well. Just wasn't I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea when day would become night and night would become day. I stopped YouTube. I made a few videos, a video or two maybe just to keep myself going, but it wasn't as focused as it is right now. And I resorted to a means of hurting myself to be able to get out the pain. And all the normal functions that I was doing, I was not able to cope up with for the next, at least, so the whole grieving process took me about 6 months. But 3 months out of that, this was my situation. Then eventually, because I had assignments to do and I was producing some films for my assignments, I had to get things going. Then in the beginning of this year, I had another breakup. Now, because it has already happened with me before, I knew that if I was going to cope up with it the way I coped up with it before, it was going to break me apart and I wasn't going to focus. Now, because it was the last 6 months of my university and I kind of realized what I needed the most right now, and that is myself and my work, um, I kind of grieved over it. Yes, I did. But at the same time, what I did was I took a lot of help. Now, this time I did not cope up with it by myself. Because the last time when I tried, I had help last time as well. But when I tried to work with it the last time, it didn't work because I didn't take as much help as I should have. So this time I took a lot of help. A lot of help. I can tell you that I spent one whole month just getting help and trying to, even now, like, I speak to my best friends and I kind of let it out of my system every time it occurs to me or every time it gets to me. So this time I decided to take a different approach to coping. And instead of, now I knew that I needed to hurt myself. I knew that there was no other option than hurting myself, because that's just who I am in terms of coping up. So instead of hurting myself, I decided to use my physical strength and go to the gym and get my body sore over there. So in that way, I did not just start losing weight, but at the same time, I was also able to get the pain that I thought my mind thought that it needed to cope up with whatever was going on. So what I'm trying to say here is that you could be wanting a negative experience to cope up with your pain, but you can choose a positive way and trick your brain into believing that this is what you deserve and this is what you needed. The second thing I did was I started meditating a lot. When I say meditating, I usually don't have time because I'm creating content around the clock. But because I didn't want to face a burnout this time like I did last year, I wasted an entire, and that is one regret that I have, because that year was such a free year and I would have had so much time to work on myself. But I wasted that entire year, and uh, maybe my channel would have been much more than where it is today. However, the time's gone and now we have to look forward to what's coming. I started meditating. Now, I don't have that much time to meditate, like I mentioned, but I make it a point to sit for 2 to 3 minutes blank, just staring into my walls and doing nothing. And that kind of helps me reflect on where I've come, what I have to do, and what ideas can come. And after the meditation is over, ideas immediately start brewing in my head, whether I make them happen or I don't make them happen. 5 ideas will come to my mind, I'll make three of them happen. And that really helps in coping up with not just my loss, but also with the fact that I am keeping myself going. Okay. One thing in all of this thing that in all of the ways that I've tried to tackle my way of coping up with my loss is that career is, important. So don't keep that aside. Okay, maybe use that as a way of keeping yourself busy first. And one more thing that I learned was that yes, after a point you have to keep yourself busy, but you kind of have to accept your emotions, because if you don't accept your emotions, then you're not coping up with it, you're trying to distract, and one day it will all come back and it's going to break you down. So accept your emotions, and feel what you feel. I mean, if it breaks you, let it break you, because you need to experience the pain to be able to actually start coping up with the process of coping up. I also started watching a lot of TED Talks. By the way, I have notes because I don't want to zone out, because I don't want a podcast to go for so long. I started watching different podcasts, different people. I started pumping content. I started giving life to ideas that were in my head for a very long time, but I just didn't have the time to do so. And I can understand that coping up during quarantine is even worse, it's even more difficult. But meditation, prayers, watching fun content online can really, really help. And this is something that I realize now, especially during quarantine, with having had a heartbreak just very recently. Um, and yeah, at the end of the day, what you have to look is that the the tomorrow is always better than yesterday. No storms last forever, but to be able to start coping up, you have to you have to feel the pain that you are going through, because जब तक वो नहीं होगा, तब तक you will not know what you're feeling. Maybe you're not sad, maybe you're guilty, maybe you are not sad, maybe you're angry, but to be able to access those emotions, you need to feel what you're feeling. And I have tried positive coping, I've tried negative coping, and I can definitely say that positive coping has changed my life and is continuing to change my life. My grief period isn't over yet, but it is slowly, slowly starting to bring up the results that I didn't see in the beginning of the process of coping up. And get a lot of help. This is something that I do a lot when I need to talk about it, when I need to let it out of my system. If I don't have anybody around, then I do it by myself. I journal, I write it in my diary, or maybe I write it on a piece of paper, and I just, burn it off, or I just record a video and then I delete it. I delete the video because maybe I'm not looking that great. But if I have somebody around to talk to me, then I sit and talk to them about it, and I tell them how I'm feeling, even if it, and sometimes I hear things like affirmations, and sometimes I hear things that need to be told to me, like call out that no, somebody, this is what you're thinking wrong and this is what is wrong. And that also helps in figuring out your mistakes and making sure that you don't do them again. The process of, at the end of the day, the process of coping up should not just be to get out of the situation, but also to learn where you might have gone wrong and what you can do better the next time, so that you don't have to go through a similar situation again. um, I think more than that, coping up is never easy. It's Some people resort to sarcasm, some people resort to working very hard, and I'm one of the people who resort to working very hard. And some people resort to going out, some people resort to sleeping, some people resort to watching more content, whether it's films, movies, whatever. Some people resort to just grieving over it. But I've learned that just by not doing anything about it, you're just making yourself worse and just making yourself miserable. And it's not necessary that you have to just work. Maybe you can also learn a new skill. Maybe you can paint, you can scream, you can shout, you can dance, anything can help. But you have to keep yourself going to be able to, it's like, to be able to push something out of a table, you have to use your hands to push it. And that is what even somewhat even coping works according to me, that you kind of have to get up and move to be able to move forward and look forward. And one more thing that I found really difficult was to be able to stop thinking how things could have been if things worked my way. Maybe if the person was still in my life, maybe I would have got that job, maybe I would have got that internship. But that's really not okay to think about, because it's over, it's gone, it's done, it's dusted. All you have to do is look forward and see what you can do, what alternative path that you have to come out of what you're feeling and how you're feeling. So that is that. And yeah, I think with that, I'm going to end today's podcast because we have exceeded a very long time. I hope that this has kind of given you an insight as to how I have been coping up with my life. And if you've had a similar experience, feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to share your experiences as well. And with that, I'm going to end today's podcast. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow. And I will see you in my next podcast. Until then, take care, have fun, be safe, stay safe, and I hope whatever you're going through, you get healed. Until then,